Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Nvidia daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Nvidia stock. Let's talk about what is happening to the stock, what we can expect moving into potentially the rest of this week after a pretty ridiculous day today in the markets. Started off really well. We had a massive gap up that looked very promising and gave the bulls essentially another, actual real shot to potentially reverse this chart and, reverse this potential bearishness that we're showing. Unfortunately, J Powell came out in the second half of the day and pretty much said, yeah, never mind. And we got smacked back right down and actually ended red, unfortunately. I think Nvidia at some point was up, I think at the highest point today it was up almost 5%. And it pretty much not only lost that full 5%, but it also ended up down 1%. So, pretty emotional market today, to say the least. But yeah, let's talk about it. So if you enjoyed, by the way, of course, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Obviously, that goes without saying. And I do share my thoughts though every day, on the charts, etc. for just $3 a month, mainly on Tesla stock, or for $5 a month for Nvidia plus Tesla and other stocks I share as well. But yeah, jumping into it, like I said, Nvidia down 1.14%, actually going up a little bit after hours here, but nonetheless closing at $129 per share pretty much. Which compared to the market is actually an outperformance, you can argue, relative to just raw percentages. But obviously Nvidia had that massive gap up, so technically speaking, it was actually down closer to almost 7%. I think if you from the very top of the thing to the bottom, almost 6%. So yeah. What does this mean moving forward though, right? This is where, the main questions are going to be. So like I said, this is where it's a tough one. It's a very tough situation we're in because, we had that massive gap up, which I wanted to see, but I really wanted to see 130 to 132 hold. We didn't hold those levels, unfortunately, right? That's, not great, right? I really wanted those levels to hold, and I really wanted it to hold around this general vicinity right here. We didn't, right? That's, a little bit concerning, right? A little bit concerning for sure, right? Not something I wanted to see personally. Because that pretty much closes us pretty much back down. That's the second day now back down below this trend line breakdown, which it's not ideal, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's not the most ideal look here, right? Because again, remember what I said yesterday, the gap up, which will be really bullish, it pretty much makes this area or this candle yesterday a massive bear trap. And then as long as we hold 130 to 132 and ideally break above this trend line here and these bands, we should go to all-time highs pretty easily. We were getting ready to do that. It was looking promising. I'm not gonna lie, it was definitely looking promising until J Powell, right? Until J Powell. And then now the question is do we just continue down, right? Do we just continue making our way back down? Well, it seems like that's going to be potentially the case, right? We need to start closing daily candles above 130 to 132 at least for me to regain any form of confidence, right? At the moment, I don't have a lot of confidence. Yes, we are going up post-market right now, but again, maybe we get another gap up. I don't know. Who knows? But we need to see an actual confident close above 130 to 132, ideally 132, really, to get any form of confidence back for the stock, because right now there's really not a whole lot of confidence for the stock with how it's performing, because it's continuing rather to threaten this potential massive bearish head and shoulders pattern, which is still very much of a threat, especially after today's very ugly reversal. And of course we have that trend line breakdown. So again, if this continues and if we really just don't get a miraculous recovery from here, with of course the bands you can see rejecting us at pretty much the high of the day, which I ended up selling towards the high of the day, which I'm very happy about. What I'm not happy about is I tried to catch this dip one too many times and I pretty much gave back all those gains and then some. So, sometimes it'd be like that. I didn't think we'd drop this aggressively, I'll be completely honest with you, but we did. So, we're getting rejected by these bands, right? We need to essentially not only reclaim 132 to really have find our footing essentially, to then battle these bands, right? To battle these bands and get back above them and turn them back to green. And that's going to be the first major step I want to see, right? Ultimately, if Nvidia can pretty much get above about 138 to 140, I think that'll be very, very bullish, and that'll be a very bullish breakout. And I think that'll be pretty much all-time highs ready to go. Clearly, we tried that today. Clearly, we failed. And clearly, we closed at pretty much the low of the day. Again, also below the head and shoulders pattern, still potentially activating it. It's below the trend line. Not ideal of a look, right? Definitely not an ideal look. So let's see how it plays out. The RSI is obviously very well oversold. Stochastic is getting a little oversold. So, Nvidia is approaching some pretty oversold territories here. It is getting pretty overextended to the downside. But the thing with the stock you have to remember is sometimes when it starts going down, it goes down pretty aggressively. Like for instance, you can argue that this candle right here, Nvidia was pretty oversold, similar to this candle that we have here, right? This one right here. RSI was also oversold on this candle, and instead it ended up dropping another 7% from there, right? So what's 7% from here? Let's just say as an example, 7% from here pretty much takes us right to about $120 per share, maybe even closer to my 115 to 116 level, which becomes a very realistic level. That becomes a very, actual level that's not impossible to, potentially reach, right? At some point, I don't know, maybe next week or something like that, maybe even this week, but probably next week, as long as we continue remaining and closing, more importantly, below 130 to 132. And as long as these bands continue acting as a, resistance, plain and simple, right? As a resistance. And so far they are. So let's see how this plays out, right? So just because the RSI is oversold here, just because the bands are oversold here, and they absolutely are. The bands are definitely getting oversold here on the daily chart, right? If it decides to appear, it's loading. I don't know why it's taking so long. So we are oversold, right? But you can see the daily bands have gotten much more oversold before. Like yesterday's low, for instance, was a pretty good one. But, we've gotten definitely more oversold in the past, especially back here. You can see we got very oversold for quite some time before we really found the bottom. And what we really started to do here was we started to set up a nice looking, bullish divergence on the RSI, right? As we continue making lower lows, RSI started making higher lows. And we're not seeing any of that yet. So yes, it is oversold. Yes, it is getting very, very oversold. But there's no real sign that it wants to actually bottom from here just yet, especially after the way we close. So it is going to take some more time, especially after the market, absolutely painful day in the market. SPY closing not only well below the 21 EMA, but well below this trend line, well below the market bias. It is at a support though. The SPY is at a 585 support, but we need to see how this market reacts moving forward, right? This was a very, very hideous close. QQQ is looking a little bit better, right? QQQ pretty much closed right at the trend line, though also below the 21 EMA. We know how 21 EMA is pretty important for the markets. So yeah, we need to see how the market reacts from here, right? Whether or not that'll help NVIDIA or not, all these questions are kind of up in the air because today was a very emotional day, very aggressive selling day, especially the second half, of course, with JPOW. And we need to see how the market, how NVIDIA, how all these stocks react moving forward. Is this just an overreaction and, just a massive bear trap, people's stop losses getting hit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, panic selling, et cetera. And then we ultimately just rip from here, or it's just the beginning and there's just more pain to come, right? It's hard to say here, right? It's very difficult to say after such a day. There's no easy answer, unfortunately. I don't have an easy answer, but my answer right now, I guess, is, so far it seems like the bears are still in control based on this closure, based on the rejection, based on the head and shoulders pattern. We're still closing below. And of course, also based on the fact that we're closing below that trend line. Again, despite having a very good opportunity to nullify both of those bearish patterns, the head and shoulders and the trend line breakdown today. And we were doing it pretty well just to falter towards the end of the day, which definitely makes these technicals look less appealing for the bulls, at least as it stands right now. Obviously things can change, but as it stands right now, I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking amazing, right? It's definitely not looking too hot. But yeah, let's see how it plays out. Let's see how the market digests all of this tomorrow. And yeah, let's just go from there. Taking a quick look at options flow as per usual though. Let's take a look at options flow here. What do we have? We have the bulls definitely stepping in actually towards the issue here is most of the bulls that were stepping in, you can see here, were in the first part of the day, right? When we were still rallying before the JPOW really, press conference started. And this is pretty much when the press conference started right here from the bottom up. And you can see it became a lot more mixed pretty much as that began. So I would take things with a grain of salt right now with how the options flow was going, because most of it was from that morning, very bullish momentum that we had in the morning, which I did play, I did make money on, though of course I gave it all back after today's massive, huge selling pressure. But let's see, guys. Let's see. Again, very difficult market, very difficult, tell for now. But just strictly off of what it looks, it doesn't seem like it's looking that good just yet. Yeah. Anyways, so that's all I got for you. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.